Hey y'all, my name is Kayla and welcome to my cozy chaotic corner of the internet. Today we are doing something a little exciting. We are diving into the books that took BookTube by storm in 2024. Now, this isn't just any list. It's the result of hours, and I mean hours, of digging into the minds of the best and brightest creators. Think of it as the ultimate highlight reel of this past year's sharpest literary crayons. Okay, confession time though, I didn't actually sit down and chat with every single booktuber. Instead, I did some good old-fashioned research and binge watched as many best of 2024 videos as I could get my grubby little hands on. Spoiler alert, I found over 100 booktubers lists, and let me just say, this crowd, next level. Their picks are just as diverse as the creators themselves, spanning in a wide swath of genres. Now, I wanted to break this video up into two sections. Section 1 is going to be the top 10 authors of 2024. Some authors made such a splash this past year. Their names came up constantly. While not all their works may have cracked the top books of 2024, I felt that it was a disservice not to mention these great authors. Section 2 is the moment that you all have been waiting for and the reason you're watching this video. The top 19 books of 2024. And I know what you may be thinking, top 19, that's such an odd number. And y'all, it came down to the nitty gritty. It was humanly impossible to actually pull a top 20 or a top 24. There were so many books that were just tying once you got to that point. Now, before we hop into the video, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel.
We're gonna get right into it, because if there's one thing I can do, it is write a college level dissertation on the books that I love with like all of the words in the English language.
Now, grab your drinks, grab your snacks, and let's get cracking. Top 10 authors of 2024, starting with number 10, we have Adeline Grace, and some of the books that got her on this top 10 list are Belladonna, Foxglove, and Wisteria. Coming in at number 9, we have Joe Abercrombie, a fantasy mastermind. A few books that got him on the list were A Little Hatred, The Blade Itself, The Wisdom of Crowds, and The Last Argument of Kings. Coming in at number 8, Miss Elsie Silver with Wild Love, Heartless, Reckless, Hopeless, and Wild Eyes. At number 7, the queen of British drama, Jessa Hastings, with Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, and Never. The author who takes 6th place created quite the spark this year, and that is Penn Cole with Spark of the Everflame, Glow of the Everflame, and Heat of the Everflame. Cracking in at number 5, we have Allie Hazelwood with a swath of books. Some of the books featured are Bride, Check and Mate, Love Theoretically, and Love on the Brain. At number 4, the king of fantasy, some may say, Mr. Brandon Sanderson. A few books, I'm not going to list them all, but we have Oathbringer, Skyward, The Way of Kings, Trust of the Emerald Sea, and Yumi the Nightmare Painter. Coming in at number 3, we have Abby Jimenez with Just for the Summer, Part of Your World, Yours Truly, and the Happy Ever After playlist. At number 2, we have Emily Henry with Funny Story, Beach Reads, and Happy Place. And our top author of 2024 is the one, the only, Sarah J. Maas, with a huge catalog of romantasy. You could say she may have brought around the renaissance of romantasy. A few of the books are the entire ACOTAR series. One of each of those books were mentioned at some point or another. We have Crescent City, Empire of Storms, Heir of Fire, and Kingdom of Ash. And that's it, y'all, our top 10 authors of 2024. Do you love them? Let me know in the comments down below. And now, we're gonna hop into the top 19 books of 2024.
Don't you dare try to run away. We decided we were gonna be friends a long time ago. Just because I look more gremlin than girl today doesn't mean you can run away. You have to love me as I am no matter what.
Coming in at number 19, we have Belladonna by Adeline Grace.
If you want a suspenseful, seductive romance,
It's essentially a gothic murder mystery with romance.
Gothic Secret Garden vibes.
That's all of my favorite elements within one book. This follows the main character Signa, and for all her life, she has known death.
if you want to look at death from a different scope,
I really did like the aspect of death being a character that was very present in the story.
And Signa makes a alliance with death itself in order to solve the mystery.
the Belladonna series is for you.
Our number 18 spot goes to Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This was one of my favorite books of 2024. While it didn't make my top 5 list, I had such a pleasure reading this book. I'm going to let the BookTube bunch take it away and let you know why they chose Divine Rivals as one of their top picks of 2024.
I solely picked up this book because of the hype that it was getting, and honestly, I was not let down.
It's about these two reporters that are rivals.
Iris's brother, Forrest, is called off to war.
And the war is happening between these two divine gods, who may also be rivals, if you will. Kind of in a cathartic way, she writes to her brother at the front. She writes him letters, but she has nowhere that she can actually send it, and so
She just kind of started slipping them in her wardrobe and they started disappearing.
turns out her typewriter is magic, and those letters are getting into the hands of her rival, Roman Kit.
But she doesn't know that.
Basically, a You've Got Mail story.
And then there's also this kind of yearning and slow burn that we don't see enough in romantasy books, in my opinion.
And it's absolutely beautiful.
Go into it for the 1940s setting, the You've Got Mail inspired romance, slow burn, and incredible found family.
This is where I started giving books like 7 stars if I'm obsessed with them.
I think Rebecca Ross is a beautiful writer, very lyrical, very romantic writing style, and the world was super cool, and Iris and Roman as characters were absolutely adorable, and I loved their relationship that developed.
I will eat it up.
At number 17, we had some literary fiction crack into the top books of 2024, and that is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman.
I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman.
I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman.
I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman.
This is an older title that I feel like this year, maybe the past 2 years, has gotten a lot of buzz.
This is a post-apocalyptic novel
Following 39 women who are being held underground in this bunker.
We don't know why they're there, we don't know what happened, nothing.
And they are constantly watched over by these guards who never speak to them.
We just know that our narrator is the youngest. She is the only one that does not remember life before the cage.
She may be their key to escape and survival.
but what they escape into is a very strange and desolate world above.
If you're the kind of reader who wants answers, this isn't the one.
This book is not going to sit and explain to you what happened before, who created the cages.
Like, those are questions that we have as a reader that aren't really the point of the story and that Hartman doesn't care to answer.
And I found this really unsettling, disquieting, silent kind of story.
It manages to not only say so much, but invite you to think so much.
It's truly such a meditation on life and our existence and how we spend our time. And the question of what is a life well lived?
I think it is probably always pretty timely to ask about what motivates us in moments of hopelessness.
And it's a book that I could see myself reading again and again throughout my life at different times, that I feel like I might look at it a different way at different points in my life.
This is exactly the kind of book that ticks a lot of Mari boxes in terms of being thematically rich and emotionally devastating.
I think one of the reasons that I ended up loving this so much is that I wasn't expecting it.
Everything to me in this book just felt like true perfection.
It kind of broke my brain a little, and I loved it for that.
Number 16 chilled some of our booktubers to their bones with Incidents Around the House by Josh Mallerman. This book features a young girl who is living with her parents, and her parents are struggling in their marriage. And as a coping mechanism to be happy in a tumultuous household, the young girl discovers Other Mother. But unfortunately, Other Mother isn't all she is cracked up to be.
I'm scared. Don't do that to me. I literally have chills just thinking about it.
So I'm really scared of that.
I didn't expect it, Tiffany. I thought Josh Mallerman is here and he's gonna like release a book and it's gonna be, you know what I mean?
It has so much that just viscerally gets me.
To my surprise, it literally was like eating everybody up.
Oh my god, I love this book. I love this book.
And so I was like, wait a minute. Have I been underestimating Josh? Josh?
First off, we're following a creepy child. I love a creepy kid trope.
The premise for this is very simple. We're following an 8-year-old girl. Her name is Bella. She's just a kid. She's just a girl. She loves her mom. She loves her grandma. She loves Dado. Everything is fine.
And this little girl sees a demon at night, and the demon is other mommy, and other mommy be asking, can I come into your heart?
Bella has to like politely but firmly be like, no, you cannot. That's weird.
So her parents are like, okay, this other mommy thing, like, we've got to figure it out. And thus ensues a very poltergeist-like story where they're trying to eradicate this demon from attacking their daughter and taking her away or possessing her.
It's like high octane horror. Other Mommy specifically is so scary. And not even just because she's like this creepy ghost thing, but because of the way that she's described and the way that she's not fucking described, with this idea that it's too horrifying to even put into words. And that Josh!
You're so ingratiated to the family and invested in their coming together, but at the same time, you understand the individual reasons that they have for pulling apart. I think that is such a masterful way of getting into the mental health of every single one of the characters. It just unfolds so well over the course of the book. I wouldn't change one thing about this book.
Josh published this, and he said, me, pussy pop all over all of you? That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Josh Mallerman, you've done it again.
Coming in at number 15, we have Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. And to my understanding, this is a dark romantasy, but I'm gonna let the girlies take it away.
I fetchin' love Phantasma.
This one was another book that was just pure fun. I always describe this book as a spicy gothic caraval.
I think this is exactly what you want when you read standalone fantasy romance.
Follow two sisters. The younger sister secretly enters Phantasma. It's like a traveling competition game.
From the moment we got introduced to the big manor called Phantasma, where the games are held.
But Phantasma is a very dangerous game. So our main character,
Ophelia, was dark. She was deceitful. She had like so much like anger inside her bones. I just like loved reading about it. Like going to a haunted house to like find your sister.
Save her, maybe pull her out of the game. There are 9 trials, all based
on the 9 circles of hell. We have demons that control the games. This was so addictive and gritty and gripping. I couldn't put it down. And from the first encounter between Ophelia and Blackwell
was so fine.
I was hooked. I was there. I wanted to know more. I couldn't put it down. The atmosphere was so epic and the romance so good.
And I ate this book up. It is literally unfreaking real how much I loved it.
Highly recommend this one. Don't sleep on it. You need to read Phantasma.
At number 14, we have Quicksilver by Callie Hart.
Quicksilver
by Callie Hart.
Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I think Quicksilver might be one of my most favorite fae books I have ever read. Because my gosh, when I say that she created such an interesting world.
I overall loved the vibe and the dark atmosphere of this world.
Oh my gosh, this is fae and vampires and humans, and it just has so much of like interesting dichotomy between all of these different like creatures and people.
There's one follows Ceres, and she does end up stealing something that will get her entire village into trouble, and she accidentally opens up this gateway, this portal to the Fae world,
and Ceres Fane ends up falling through into the Fae realm.
And there she is like pulled in by Kingfisher.
I just feel like Kingfisher is just filled with unfiltered rage.
Oh, Kingfisher was quite brooding.
And I just love him, and I just love the journey that he and Sarah's Fane had to go on in this book.
But it just helped enhance the yearning.
And of course, Ceres and Kingfisher are perfect for each other.
There was a little bit of insta-lust, but at the same time, if you look like Kingfisher, why wouldn't you feel insta-lust? This romance had me in the palm of its hands by the end of it. I was eating it up. But my palms were not what I wanted to be eaten, if you know what I mean.
The romance was scorching hot.
The characters were also more vastly interesting than the characters in pretty much all of the other romantasy books that I read.
And I also love that the side characters in this book are not like a
background fodder so that we just have someone to talk to every now and then. They actually felt like they had a point. They actually felt like they had something to say and contribute to the story.
How we get to love them and to know them and to root for them.
Extremely well written, very cool world building.
And there's still so much to learn about it. You know, there's still a lot of mystery and a lot of questions that I have about it. And there are some like alchemy elements to it that I thought was really well done.
I loved every single bit of it.
It also had my biggest buzzword of them all, found family. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was so good.
Thank you, Callie Hart, for giving us Quicksilver. Thank you for giving us our Lord and Savior, Kingfisher.
The number 13 spot is
When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker.
When the Moon Hatched.
When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker was probably my favorite romantasy of the year, and she was huge.
This is a hefty book.
I don't even know how to get into what this book is about.
This one is definitely more of a high fantasy.
There was a lot of world building, a lot of foundation to set before you could actually get into the plot.
But we still have that romantic element as well.
I absolutely loved the writing style of this book. It was very floral in some parts, super descriptive, but like in a beautiful way.
I think if you're an extremely emotional reader and an extremely visual reader, you will love this.
We also have this element of like old journal entries and a mystery with that, which I absolutely love.
It is really worth it to get through that world building because I think that this is one of the coolest fantasy worlds that I have read this year for sure.
In this book, we have a world that's made up of different gods, and all the gods are elementals.
You can have fire power or water or air or something like that.
We also have dragons.
There's also dragons in this world.
And there's lots of moons because the dragons in this world, when they die, they will go up into the sky and turn themselves into moons.
I really enjoyed our female main character in this book,
Rave, and she is very, very mysterious for a main character for most of the book. She is kind of working with this rebellion group to take down some of these corrupt rulers in the world.
Rave's job is basically to just not get caught, working as kind of like an assassin.
There's a lot of betrayal.
And she's been captured, but someone comes and save her.
There's a lot of action in this as well. It just all kind of worked together to create a really, really cool fantasy.
But I think the shining star of this book is the fact that the romance feels like a romance book romance, and the world is so big. It is the perfect coupling of a beautiful romance, but then also the world was so unique and so cool.
I did enjoy this one and I gave it 5 stars.
The number 12 spot belongs to Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver.
Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is just so special. This is the second book in the Rose Hill series. I cannot express to you how much I loved Wild Eyes.
If you love small town romances, if you love cowboy romances, if you love the found family trope, Elsie Silver is your girl.
In this one here we have West and we have Skylar. West is a single dad to 2 very beautiful small children, and he is like that cowboy rancher sort of vibe. And then we have Skylar, who is a very famous pop singer.
She comes to the recording studio to record her album.
The two of them meet on the side of the road when Skylar is, you know, trying to get a selfie with a bear. Let's just say that.
Getting 2 people from totally opposite sides of the track
strikes up a sort of friendship with Wes.
This also is a male main character who is like happy to just sit back and watch you shine.
And I also feel like he is so supportive of her and she's never experienced that before.
Skylar just loves so much with her whole heart, and I really just loved her as a character.
And their romance was just so good. I was so addicted to this book.
This book was kind of like a breath of fresh air.
I just love how Elsie Silver writes a man. Like, I need him.
At number 11, Magnolia Park's Into the Dark by Jessa Hastings.
Into the Dark by Miss Jessa Hastings.
Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. Okay, I could talk about this forever. I could. Magnolia Park's is my entire world.
I could cry. thinking about this book.
These characters make me feel things that I just don't even know how to put into words. I honestly have thought a lot about the fact that I used to say that this is kind of like Gossip Girl meets London High Society. It is, but it just like so undersells what this book is.
They're very out of touch. They're rich socialites from London in this very like trauma bonded group.
I agree, it is totally toxic. It is not for everyone.
She's not writing for the readers to have a happily ever after and have a great time reading it. No, she's writing about characters that have flaws.
But if you connect to these characters and you connect to this world, it leaves an imprint on you in a way that I cannot explain.
I think the way that Jessa Hastings in this series specifically can create characters that feel so realistic.
And especially in this book, it feels like such an accurate, real depiction of so many emotions.
The most insane quotes I've ever read in my life, the most beautiful, heart-wrenching quotes that like live rent-free in the back of my mind.
It's like it feels like you're just looking in on these characters that have been through hell, been through so much, and their emotions just feel so real.
That's real and that's realistic, and that's how people go through life. Like, we're not walking through life picture perfect. This book was just so beautiful. You love their love, and the found family in here is like none other.
Stepping into our top 10, we have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig.
One Dark Window.
One Dark Window.
One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig.
It has this dark, fairy tale-esque atmosphere. We have an enchanting forest.
Trapped in this eerie mist. And in this mist, where it gets really thick and dense, there's dangerous magic. If you wander out into it, the magic claims you. What I love about this series is that the magic system is
based on a magical deck of cards.
Providence cards. I view them kind of like tarot cards, and if you have a certain card, then you have a certain magical ability.
The legend of this world is that if you unite all 12 cards in the deck, you'll be able to break this curse that is over the kingdom.
These follow Elspeth,
who is living with a monster inside of her head.
And she calls it the Nightmare.
But she gets swept up in this rebel group that's trying to unite the deck to be able to break the curse.
One evening, she's walking home and she runs into a highwayman and she notices something in his eyes. Let's just say her life takes a turn.
The plot
was so strong in this book.
Everything was so well done, and we have found family, and we also have a beautiful cast of characters that will steal your heart.
Okay, I think we're like halfway done. Oh my gosh.
Book 9 belongs to Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole.
Drum roll, please. You guys have heard about this one nonstop this year.
I binged it. It was like a week.
I love these too much. I don't know how to talk about them.
There's a guy, and there's a girl, and then there's these people.
It follows Diem.
So it's only her POV to start out.
She lives in a village with her dad, and her brother and her mom has gone missing.
Now Diem herself is a healer, she's human, and one day she ends up getting the opportunity to go to the palace to do some healing there. While she's there, she learns a lot about the palace. She meets a prince, you know.
Slow burn romance was great.
If you want romance in your book, but you want to bring back yearning and banter and like there's betrayal.
Unexpected origins.
This one also ended off on like a crazy cliffhanger, to be completely honest, which I thought was really good, and I'm excited to continue the rest of the series.
I'm speechless. My brain has checked out.
Just read it.
Just read it. Read it. Give it a try.
Read the book.
Our number 8 spot is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab.
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Addie is old. She's lived a really long time.
The setup of the story is this young woman ends up making this deal so that she can get out of a horrible life that she doesn't want for herself.
Her age is kind of frozen in place. She is immortal because she made a deal with the devil.
And in doing so, she is now destined to be forgotten by everyone she meets.
As soon as she leaves, they forget she existed.
As you would expect, she has a very lonely existence. One day she meets somebody who does remember her, and it thrusts her life into a completely different realm because she's not experienced this for centuries at this point.
The writing style is beautiful.
I really appreciated just how much V.E. Schwab tapped into this like quiet agony that the character experiences.
It's a story about solitude, about fate, about making a mark.
And what it means to truly feel alone in the world.
I love the message. I love the themes of this book.
She deals with dark themes, and it does so in a way that feels savage. Nonetheless, I really enjoyed this one, and with the first pages, I knew this was going to be one of my favorite reads of the year.
Spot number 7 belongs to The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I just realized that was number 7. Just, a little happy coincidence.
The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston.
The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston.
The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston.
This is a magical realism romance based in New York.
This book here follows Clementine.
She never really connected with her parents, but she connected with her aunt.
And her aunt, who she was really close with, recently passed away.
She's just recently inherited an apartment from her late aunt, and her aunt always said, this apartment has magical powers. Like, be aware, it has magical powers. And Clementine just never really believed her. She's like, you're full of it, whatever. Until one day, when she has finally moved into this apartment, she sees a strange man standing in her kitchen.
And she's like, who the heck is this guy?
And he is from 7 years in the past.
They meet, they talk, they get to know each other, and then suddenly, the next time she walks in, it's back in the present day. So it kind of just goes back and forth, back and forth.
There is also a very, heavy depiction of grief in this too, which is done so truthfully. Like, honestly, I just really, really commend her on that.
I connected with this in a way that I cannot explain.
This book is also the best book with the right person, wrong time trope that I think I've ever read. It is just so beautifully done.
It is written so beautifully, so poetically.
It's just super, super, super special.
If you have not read this yet, please, honestly, do yourself a favor and read this.
Number 6, right before our top 5, is The Will of the Many by James Islington.
The Will of the Many by James Islington.
The Will of the Many by James Islington.
The Will of the Many by James Islington, or I've heard people say Islington, so I don't know if it's Islington or Islington.
This is a phenomenal first book in a series.
I would 69 this book if I could.
This book just broke my brain.
We have a main character who is basically picked out of an orphanage and being sent to this prestigious academy.
Put me in any magical academy and I will love it.
I thought I was over books that were kind of set in schools. This book was like, no bitch, you still love him.
By one of the higher-ups in this hierarchy.
This hierarchy are ruling the world.
His new adoptive father is sending him to this academy to basically be undercover and try to get information for him.
And we have this kind of mostly unknown magic system, I think, from this first book. We got a little bit of explanation on it, but I think we're gonna expand on that in the next books. We're gonna expand on many things in the next books.
He is actually also not who his adoptive father really thinks that he is.
And I loved all the settings in this book too. We have a prison, we have an amphitheater, we have the academy itself. It just felt like I constantly wanted to look around in this world.
It is such a well-crafted world.
There were some moments when you thought you would be lulled into a false sense of security, and then something would happen and would pull you back in. You were not allowed to look away. Oh my gosh. The twists and turns, I was wigless, I was gagged, I was gooped.
I feel like this book also was just leaving me speechless.
But what James Islington did with this story and this plotline by the end of this book, immediate auto buy.
In our top 5 spot, we have We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cleaver. This is a story about a couple that had just moved into a brand new house. There's a knock on the door, and it's a man with his family. And he tells her that we used to live here. Things go downhill from there. But just because things went downhill for our characters doesn't mean this wasn't a fantastic read for BookTube.
This is probably one of the best covers of the year, in my opinion.
All you need to know about the plot of this book going into it is that
this is about Eve and Charlie,
who just moved into this house and their intention is to flip it.
Eve is home alone one day after a few months after moving in. She's painting or something like that.
But one day the people who used to live there show up.
Charlie is due to arrive home at any moment.
And the dad of the family is saying that he used to live in this house.
I know, it's pretty crazy. You probably care about that a lot, don't you? Yeah.
Immediately, no, I would never.
But instead, because she's a people pleaser, chronically, she says, please come in to my house. I would love to have you.
But then they won't leave.
This becomes one of those books that's like watching a horror movie where you're just screaming at the characters no, don't do that. Don't let them in. Why are you doing that? Don't go behind that door.
This book is so aggravating, so terrifying.
Every creepy thing you've ever gone into a Reddit deep dive on and worried about happening to you, that is what happens to this woman in this book.
This book is an emotional, religious experience.
Trippy and weird, and you're losing yourself in space and time.
That is discombobulating and uncanny. And
I finished this book feeling as though there was no God, actually.
How am I losing my sense of reality just from reading words on a page? Incredible.
And just a wild time.
But I just need you to know, Tiffany, that if you read this, it will change your life. You will be happy for forever. Nothing bad will ever happen to you ever again.
Coming in at number 4, we have Bride by Allie Hazelwood. This is a romance between a vampire and a werewolf.
We got vampires and werewolves, oh my. We don't even need to talk about this one anymore, okay?
Hear me out, hear me out.
This one is definitely a full-on paranormal romance, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I was hooked from page 1 on this.
It was such a giggly fun time.
I was so surprised.
Urban fantasy, mafia, werewolves meets vampires, arranged marriage, forced proximity trope.
Our main character, Misery Lark, is the daughter of the head of the vampires, and he's made a deal with the head of the werewolves to essentially marry her off.
Kind of an arranged marriage, political treaty type of situation, and then they kind of fall in love for real.
If I were to go feral for a man, I felt Misery going feral for this man, and I was like, honestly, babe, I get it.
And there's action, there's peril.
Bride was unfreaking real. It was legendary.
This was, at the time, the most I had kicked my feet and giggled while reading in the longest time.
Surprise hit of the year. I'm shook.
At number 3, we have Heartless Hunter, or if you're across the pond, Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli.
The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli.
Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli.
I read this book in literally a day.
This is my favorite romance of the year.
This is set in the Victorian period.
You follow a witch and a witch hunter.
But it didn't give me like autumnal fall witch. It gave more like socialite who attends balls and operas. It follows Rune, who is
basically a witch.
In this world, recently witches have been outcasted, they've been outlawed.
Like if they find out that you're a witch, you're done for.
And the witches are remaining, they're trying to hide among humans.
She actually goes out and saves other witches. And during the day, she pretends to be this socialite who's kind of airheaded. She doesn't know much, right? She's just a pretty face.
And I think that's so fun. I feel like you don't really get that too much in female main characters in fantasies. Like, she's just like this rich socialite.
And then you follow these two people, they can't stand each other.
She decides to throw the witch hunters off her scent by dating a witch hunter named Gideon.
And they're also playing each other, her and the male main character, who is our witch hunter.
Is an enemy to... I can't say lovers. It's just an enemy to something else.
Kind of like a How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days situation here.
This is how you keep the tension between two individuals. This is how you make me pine for them. Kept me on the edge of my seat.
Keep you on the edge of your seat.
It ends with a slap on your face.
The ending of this book, when I tell you, I almost threw it across the room. I was so mad.
This just did its magic.
It's so good. It's so good, you guys.
So if you have not read this, and if you like fantasy or romantic fantasy, do yourself a favor. The Crimson Moth.
Coming in at number 2, we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Now, I personally read this book. I enjoyed it greatly. And again, while it didn't make my top books of 2024, it was a great time. And, you know, my girl Abby is from Minnesota. If you don't know, I am also from Minnesota. And I just love that a story based out of Minnesota is cracking into the book zeitgeist, and people are just enjoying what we have to offer.
No singular doubt, not one singular thought of a doubt. The top romance read for me this year.
This book kind of has like a silly premise, if you will.
Emma and Justin both have this curse where every single person they date goes on to find the love of their lives after them.
You see how it's different already? Like, what? Yeah, she's cursed.
And so they're like, oh my god, maybe if we like date each other, it'll cancel it out.
Because that's how this curse works, right?
So Emma and her friend end up deciding to move to where Justin lives, but you also just have Justin as a person. He is so thoughtful. He is an acts of service king.
Justin isn't supposed to be this unbelievably cute and hilarious guy. That's a dangerous combination. You're cute and funny. No way.
And so like the book starts off with like a really fun, almost like lighthearted, silly premise.
But the rest of this honestly talks about a lot of real things that are going on.
It's such a beautiful mix of a fun time, a rom-com time, with emotional depth and character depth that like you don't expect.
Oh my god, this book just hit me so hard. I loved it so much.
And our top spot of 2024 belongs to Funny Story by Emily Henry. Now, if you don't know, this book was actually one of the worst books I read in 2024. I will link the video down below if you want to see why I was not a fan of this book. But because I'm not a fan of this book, I am going to let the girlies rant and rave and tell you why they appreciated this book out of all the books in 2024.
Have y'all read this book? Like, y'all.
Now, this next book honestly surprised me.
We have a book that took me by surprise.
We knew this one was gonna be on my list.
It lived up to the hype.
It's truly so funny, but it is also so heartfelt.
This one I loved so much because it doesn't feel like your normal rom-com.
So iconic, so adorable.
Funny story about this girl named Daphne. She was engaged to this dude named Peter.
Then, a few nights before their wedding, he was like, you know what? I think I'm actually in love with my best friend.
And Miles is in a relationship with a woman called Petra. Petra and Peter are actually childhood best friends.
She ends up becoming roommates with the man who was dating the woman that her fiance cheated on her with.
So their living situations are fucked because their partners are kicking them out of the house.
Slowly but surely they become friends, and then they're like, you know what? Let's make our exes jealous and let's pretend to be dating.
Looking like they're enjoying their lives together. They're still happy together, but it's all for show, right? It's not real, right?
And of course the fake dating turns into real dating.
I thought their relationship was cute.
I felt like I was genuinely a fly on the wall of their relationship.
I love the boy in this book.
I loved Miles as our male main character.
Miles is the type of guy that I want in real life. He is my book boyfriend standard at this point.
Because he's like that. He's like, I'm gritty, I'm a man. But he's also like, oh my god, I'm emotional. Like, I'm gonna cry to a rom-com. Like, that is who I need. The emotional development and the individual development of the characters throughout the relationship really lends itself to a beautiful arc throughout the story.
It shows how a person who lives in a whole new city and state without any of her family or her own childhood friends, how they develop and grow in an area that they're not accustomed to.
When I was reading this book, I genuinely felt like everything that Daphne was thinking, saying, and feeling were exactly things that I've experienced and felt myself.
I was literally kicking my feet, giggling, everything. I will never shut up about this book.
And it's just so good.
I just love it.
Well, y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and the rest of the BookTube bunch. Comment down below. Let me know, were any of these books your top books? What were your top books? Also, y'all, I just want to thank all of the amazing creators who created best of 2024 videos. Again, I watched over 100 different creators, 100 different videos, and while not every single creator may have popped up on the screen today, there were so many fantastic creators that had so many wonderful recommendations. So please, 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 I highly encourage you to check them out. Their names are on the screen rolling by here, and I will try and include all of them down in the description below. Please check them out. Without them, this video would not have been possible. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Please check out the creators, and I will see y'all in the next